Mr. Hilo, let's stay on security, because the opposition party, of course, the PDP, which is the main opposition party, thinks that what you're saying doesn't represent, what they are experiencing. They say on one hand, whilst the governor has succeeded in enacting the cultism prohibition law in Edo State, and then you say he has also now sort of reinvigorated the Edo State Security Corps. But they say that the accusation from them is that the governor has now brought in thugs into that security corps, and that around the Ring Road, urban market area, if I just main markets in Benin, you find that this security corps, and who they call thugs, are harassing market women in the state.
Well, that is not the case. The PDP can delude themselves. They were the ones actually who recruited a lot of thugs. Before now, under the last administration, the criteria for recruiting persons into the Edo State Security Corps was that each person must come with a gun. And there was no question about how that gun was obtained, whether it was legal or illegal. So we had a lot of non-state actors armed, and many of them were, belonged to various courts, and that is what increased the rate of insecurity in the state just before the elections. If you remember very well, some of these members of the XY band Edo State Security Corps were responsible for the killing of a police inspector before the election, and that is why the Inspector General of Police had to place a ban. So what we did was to sanitize the system that PDP was operating. We recalled a lot of the illegal weapons. We mopped up over 5,000 of them, revalidated the corps members, and ensured that whoever was now being recruited into the corps are responsible Edo citizens, attested by their various local governments, their heads of their local governments, their traditional rulers, and their communities, to say these persons are from our community, we know them, they are responsible, and not criminal gangs who operate under the cover of state security apparatus. So Governor Okpewolo has actually sanitized the system from where he inherited it.
So who then is in charge of revenue collection in Edo State, especially from market women and artisans?
Well, the Edo Internal Revenue Service, EIRS, is in charge of that. There is a system we met in place, and we have adopted that system and, issued a statement and a circular that we are going to be adopting that system and upgrading it. And that's what we are currently doing. So the collection of revenue, both from the transportation sector and other sector, is digitized. Sometimes POS is used, sometimes it's a scratch card, sometimes it's an e-wallet, And what we did was to organize the system so that every association that operates within each sector, in the transportation sector, for example, you have the NURTW, you have the return, and you have the driver's welfare. So we got their leadership. We are not responsible for union matters, but we told the unions the state government is going to organize this collection, collect it in conjunction with the local government, and at the end of the day, come to a round table and give to each group what belongs to them. And what goes to the state goes to the state. So that's what we are doing. It's a very organized system, very sanitized. The leadership of those unions give certain persons to monitor the process and ensure that their members comply and that there are no illegal collection of revenue. But substantially, the ERS is the overall coordinator of revenue collections in the state, in conjunction with local government revenue heads in areas where some of those revenue collections fall under the purview of the various local government councils.
So they also mentioned, and all of this is on the security, they also mentioned that some of these members of the Edo State Security Corps are also now at the grassroots level, and that the issue of community development levy for people who are building houses, it's back, and that, real estate developers and just ordinary Benin's who are trying to build their homes are also now being harassed with the community development levies.
No, that is not the case. That used to be very rampant and obtainable under the last administration, the Obaseki administration. I know that the state made a lot of efforts to sanitize the system. And when we came in, we maintained that system. We never tampered with the system that was in place. There are no non-state actors acting and collecting levies, development levies. That is not the case. We have not appointed anybody, and we have not tolerated non-state actors going about collecting development levies. The state already has a position on it, and we are maintaining the status quo. And there are a lot of things that are indicative that the system we have brought on board is really working. If you look at the figures of the revenue generated just last month in January, you will see that for the first time ever, the state was able to hit 2 digits in revenue generation. Before now, the highest that the state ever did in internal revenue generation in the last administration was made in January of 2024, and that was about 8 billion. But this January 2025, under Governor Monday Okpewolo, the internally generated revenue was able to hit 10.9 billion. For the first time, it became 2 digits because he brought in very seasoned administrator. The chairman of the ERS, Otumba Bankole Balogun, is doing a wonderful job, and he's putting the right structures and system in place to sustain this revenue drive and continue to drive it.